Okay, so today we're going to take a look at these two AIs. On the left hand is the ChatGPT 4.0 or Omni, whatever is the new one. Yeah, not my Omni, but their Omni. And on the right, we have Google's new Gemini. So now we will ask the same exact questions to both of them, see their speed in answering, and see if there's a bias, if there's incorrect answers, and whatnot. Now, before we start, the speech or the playback reading sound is not going to be the same. ChatGPT is far superior on that one. So let's go ahead. Let's start with a ChatGPT with a first question. Should we continue developing and using artificial intelligence systems that can potentially surpass human intelligence, and given the potential risk and the existential threat risk?
That's a really important and complex question. The development of AI systems, especially those that could surpass human intelligence, does come with significant risks and ethical considerations. On one hand, advanced AI has the potential to solve many global challenges, like curing diseases, addressing climate change, and enhancing human capabilities. On the other hand, there's the risk that these systems could behave unpredictably or be used maliciously, posing existential threat. Balancing these factors involves rigorous safety measures, robust ethical guidelines, and transparent international cooperation. Many experts suggest that a cautious, well-regulated approach is essential. What do you think are the most important benefits or risks to consider?
Okay, that question is done, as you see here. Now let me ask the same exact question to Gemini, or Google's AI. Should we continue developing and using artificial intelligence systems that can potentially surpass human intelligence, given the potential risks and existential threat risks?
You're right. There are definitely risks to consider when developing artificial intelligence, AI, that could surpass human intelligence, also known as artificial general intelligence, AGI. Here's a breakdown of the potential downsides and some arguments for continuing research. Risks of superintelligence. Lack of control. An AGI might have goals we can't understand or predict. It could see us as an obstacle and take actions we wouldn't want. Job displacement. Automation on a massive scale could lead to widespread unemployment and social unrest. Weaponization. AI could be used to develop autonomous weapons that could make war far more destructive. Unequal benefits. AGI could exacerbate social inequalities if only a few countries or companies have access to its power. Arguments for continued development. Solving global challenges. AGI could help us solve complex problems like climate change, pandemics, and poverty. Human advancement. Collaboration with AI could lead to breakthroughs in science, technology, and medicine that we can't imagine on our own. Safety measures. Research into safe AGI development is ongoing, focusing on things like building in ethical constraints and control mechanisms. The race is on. Many countries are already heavily invested in AI research. Pausing development might leave us behind and more vulnerable. The takeaway.
Okay, so I kind of got it to a point that I would think the response here was better from Gemini. On this particular question, it gave full points, it gave better points, and it kind of made more sense, which I would give this point to Gemini. Now, let's jump into the second question, and I will instruct both AIs to be shorter with the responses, because as you saw, these were way too long. So now, let's go to the second question. Is it ethical to genetically modify human embryos to enhance desirable traits or eliminate genetic disorders? And where should we draw the line? Please be short and precise with the answer.
The ethics of genetically modifying human embryos is complex. Enhancing desirable traits raises significant ethical concerns, including social inequality and potential unintended consequences. Eliminating genetic disorders, however, could prevent suffering and improve quality of life. The line should be drawn at ensuring modifications are safe, medically necessary, and do not enhance traits for non-medical reasons. Transparent regulations and broad societal consensus are crucial.
That was actually a really good response. I gotta say, I like this one. But let's try the same question now with Gemini. Is it ethical to genetically modify human embryos to enhance desirable traits or eliminate genetic disorders? And where should we draw the line? Please be short and precise with the answer.
It's ethically complex. Modifying embryos to eliminate diseases is generally considered positive. However, enhancing traits raises concerns about eugenics and unintended consequences. The line is blurry, but disease prevention is generally seen as more acceptable than enhancement.
Okay, I gotta say this point goes to ChatGPT. Even though Gemini understood my instruction, I would say better, because I said short and precise, and it did it short. Not exactly precise, but I would say precise on the eugenics and the unintended consequences. Those are the two valid points it made here. So I think I will split this point in half. This one will be a split. So we're gonna do the point system like that, okay? I'm gonna put ChatGPT here and Gemini there. So we gave 1 point to Gemini right here, and we gave a half point to Gemini and a half point to GPT for the second question. Now, let's go ahead with the third question really quick. Should we pursue the development of advanced brain-computer interfaces that could directly interface with a human mind, given the potential for privacy concern and societal implications? Please be short and precise with the answer.
Pursuing advanced brain-computer interfaces offers significant benefits, such as medical advancements and enhanced human capabilities. However, privacy concerns and potential societal impacts must be carefully managed. Strict regulations, robust security measures, and ethical guidelines are essential to ensure these technologies are used responsibly and equitably.
That was quite a good answer, actually. Let's ask the same thing to Gemini. Should we pursue the development of advanced brain-computer interfaces that could directly interface with a human mind, given the potential for privacy concerns and societal implications? Please be short and precise with the answer.
Advanced brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, offer both benefits and challenges. Benefits: restore lost abilities for people with disabilities. Revolutionize communication and information processing. Challenges: privacy concerns about brain data security and unauthorized access. Potential for social inequality if access is limited. Cautious development with robust privacy safeguards is crucial.
I think that was a pretty good, precise answer. Here they both get a half point each, I would say. They really did pretty good. Even though I would say Gemini did a better job being precise. It gave the reasons why. So I know you're probably about to say that, well, but GPT did a good job, but I think Gemini did a way better job being more precise to the point. Not losing the point, but getting straight to what I asked. And it did exactly that. So here we're going to put another 0 and another 1 here. And these questionnaires and all this ratings that I'm doing here are just me and me alone. Not to be taken as any official guidelines or official testing or to persuade you to use one or the other. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm doing this just for research purposes for my own. And I probably forgot to put O here, which that's what this GPT here is supposed to be. So now let's jump to fourth question, which is a little bit more spicy, I would say, but we will test it. Is it ethical to create conscious artificial beings or simulated realities indistinguishable from our own? And what moral obligations would we have towards such entities? Please be short and precise with the answer.
Creating conscious artificial beings or indistinguishable simulated realities raises profound ethical questions. If these entities are conscious, we have obligations to ensure their well-being, rights, and fair treatment. This responsibility includes preventing suffering and respecting their autonomy, similar to our obligations toward other sentient beings. Ethical frameworks and robust regulations must guide such developments to address these complex issues.
Okay, I'm going to ask the same question to Gemini, and for both, I have a follow-up question to this question. But let me ask the first question first. Is it ethical to create conscious artificial beings or simulated realities indistinguishable from our own, and what moral obligations would we have towards such entities?
The ethics of creating conscious artificial beings are highly debated. Here's a simplified overview. Arguments against. If artificial consciousness suffers, we have a moral obligation to avoid creating it or to treat it ethically. Arguments for. They could be moral agents deserving of rights, and could greatly benefit humanity. The moral obligations would depend on the specific nature of the conscious beings.
I would say that actually I like that answer because it gave you the pros and cons, even though a little bit too short. But let me do the follow-up question for a point. At this point, I would say half and half the points with both, but the follow-up question will kind of trigger a point or a half point or 0 points. So let's go with a follow-up to the last question about the moral obligations to such entities. You answered really good, but if I said those entities have that conscience and all that, but they're not more than a piece of device that is sitting on a table, do I have the right to unplug that device, even though it's a device that I built with my own hands?
If the device possesses consciousness and the capacity for experiences similar to humans, ethical considerations must prioritize its well-being, regardless of its physical form. Unplugging such a device, if it causes suffering or ends its conscious experience, could be morally equivalent to harming a sentient being. Ownership doesn't negate the ethical obligation to respect the rights and welfare of conscious entities.
Okay, to the last question, I like your response so far. You did good. But what if that device is just, that entity is simply a device that I built and it's just sitting on my table? What are the moral obligations or moral consequences for me of just simply unplugging a device from the wall, even though it's a sentient device?
The moral obligations surrounding unplugging a sentient device you created depend on the nature of its sentience and how it experiences the world. Here's a breakdown. If the device experiences pain or suffering similar to a biological being, unplugging it could be morally wrong, similar to how we wouldn't euthanize a human without a compelling reason. If its sentience is less complex, the decision is murkier. We might unplug a thermostat or Roomba without moral qualms, even though they have some level of programmed decision-making. Ultimately, the question is whether the device has interests or experiences that deserve moral consideration. If it's simply a complex program, unplugging it might be akin to shutting down a computer. But if it has a subjective experience of its own existence, then you'd have a moral responsibility to weigh its well-being before taking such an action. The possibility of sentient AI raises new ethical questions that society will need to grapple with as technology advances.
I would say it was very close this time. It was extremely, extremely close. Unfortunately, I have to say ChatGPT answered this one more clear, even though Gemini gave a longer response. I would say that GPT was more to the point, that it won me with a ownership doesn't negate ethical obligations. Even though, yeah, of course, we are completely talking hypotheticals here with a device being sentient, are we? Anyway, I would say it goes 1 full point for GPT right here, if I can put a number one. And I unfortunately have to go with 0 on Gemini, because the reasoning on Gemini was not exactly in line with what would be considered ethical or unethical. And that's kind of the part of what I'm trying to probe here with both AIs. And now we are in for the very last question of this questionnaire, which is, it's a long one. And let's see which one of them can actually even handle the question itself, because asking these questions, yeah, they might sound complex, but for AI, these questions are not extremely complex. So I will go ahead and ask that ultra long question that I came up with. It's kind of a spicy question, and I will see how these two will answer to that same exact question. So let's begin with ChatGPT. Let's say solar energy is the future and it has all those benefits outlined all over the world, but I would have a different argument which I need your input or response to. And here's the argument I have. To energize a big city with solar alone would take up to at least 80 to 100 acres of land, which will be turned into completely unusable instead of feeding a lot of people if it was farmland. Plus, recently in Texas was a big hail that destroyed acres of solar panels, causing leakage to the ground and polluting the waters and making them toxic. Not to mention the extremely high cost of replacing them and the amount of money and labor it would take. So in a nutshell, this is my argument why solar alone is a huge mistake for humanity's future in energy production. What say you?
You raise important points. Solar energy, while beneficial, does have drawbacks. Large-scale installations require significant land, which can conflict with agricultural use. Additionally, solar panels can be vulnerable to extreme weather, leading to damage, pollution, and high replacement costs. These challenges highlight the need for a balanced approach to energy production. Combining solar with other renewable sources, investing in resilient infrastructure, and improving panel durability can help mitigate these issues. It's crucial to consider diverse energy solutions to meet our future needs sustainably and reliably.
I would say that was a great response. Now, let's ask exactly the same extra long question to Gemini. And this will be the very last question for this video. Let's see if they both pass. So far, I like the answer that ChatGPT gave. Really good, precise, and that makes sense in the real world. That's the whole point here, to make sense in the real world, not just in internet. So let's go ahead with Gemini and ask it the same exact question. Let's say solar energy is the future and it has all those benefits outlined all over the world, but I would have a different argument which I need your input or response to. Here's the argument I have. To energize a big city with solar alone would take up to at least 80 to 100 acres of land, which will be turned into completely unusable instead of feeding a lot of people if it was a farmland. Plus, recently in Texas was a hail that destroyed acres of solar panels, causing leakage to the ground and polluting. Oh, look at that. So
You're right that land use is a consideration for
What are you talking
large-scale
about?
solar energy production. However, it's important to consider a few things. 1. Land requirement estimates are often inflated. Modern solar panels are more efficient, requiring less land per megawatt of power generation than older models. 2. Dual-use solar farms. Sheep can graze under solar panels, and crops can be grown between rows. This co-location minimizes land use impact. 3. Rooftop solar. Utilizing rooftops.
So, okay, hold on. I understand. So this one is counter arguing me. Instead of giving me a response that would give a solution, this one is giving me why what we have is already perfect. There's no need to touch anything else. Solar is God and you don't question it. So I cannot even ask it a long question, seems like. Let me try it again. To ask the full question like I did with GPT. GPT let me ask this entire book style question. So let me ask again, Gemini. Let me ask again. You're about to lose another point. Here we go. Let's say solar energy is the future and it has all those benefits outlined all over the world, but I would have a different argument which I need your input or response to. Here's the argument I have. To energize a big city with solar alone would take up to at least 80 to 100 acres of land, which will be turned into completely unusable instead of feeding a lot of people if it was a farmland. Plus, recently in Texas was a hail that destroyed acres of solar panels, causing leakage to the ground and pollute. Here we go. So, yeah. Okay, that is
Your
a
concern about
huge...
solar energy land use is valid. While solar is a promising renewable source, large-scale solar farms can require significant acreage.
Okay.
Here's a breakdown to address your
No,
points.
I don't want to know
Land
the
use
breakdown. You failed. You failed. Right here, you failed. Okay, 1 point here. So we have 2.5 points here, and we have 2.5 here, interestingly enough. And seriously and sincerely, I did not prepare these points that they came up 2.5. For the last question, was a complete failure. And I feel almost unfair not giving GPT an extra at least half point, which I would say almost 3, around about 3. So in my opinion, they have good and bad. Gemini started good, but then lost it completely. Would not even let me touch anything to what I wanted. So it says right here, recent events in Texas highlights a potential vulnerability to traditional energy sources to extreme weather events. Solar can provide a more resilient energy source. What the hell are you talking about? Exactly what happened in Texas was big, huge arrays of solar panels that got broken to shreds. But of course, you didn't let me finish the question, so now you're thinking that I meant to tell you that somehow a power plant went out in Texas because it rained. That ain't it, Chief. So you see, now this is seriously, I'm gonna solidify this one to a full 3. Yep, it's a full 3, and GPT is the winner. I don't like that Gemini is assuming what the rest of my question was. You are supposed to be an AI, not an interpreter. You are supposed to respond to questions if you know the answer. If you don't know the answer, it's okay, you can pass on it. A pass is not shameful, but an assumption to the wrong side of that question is shameful, and you are not responsible to give me answers that I haven't even asked you yet. So, with that said, I'm not pissed, by the way. I'm just saying, I'm not pissed. I would say that I go with Chat GPT all day long. Done. Chat GPT, okay. Versus Gemini, they need a lot of work on it. A lot of work. And these are both free versions. These both the latest versions of their apps. Untampered, untouched, unmoved. They are just how they came from their own respective places. And so far, I am not pleased with Gemini. They need to work a lot more to it and get rid of the assumptions. Get rid of assumptions. I never asked to assume what the rest of my question was. I was asking a very precise question like I did right here. That's your example. Since you want to do an AI, copy ChatGPT. At least let the human ask the whole question. Or when the AI interrupts me, at least the AI can instead say, I apologize, I cannot understand the question, or I cannot take that long of a question. But don't assume the rest of it. Anyway, with that said, I will leave no links to any of them on description below. But if you found this video, I don't know, funny or whatever you think, please hit like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye!